Hey everyone, Mike Ongstead here. Pleased to be joined once
Joel
again
Serby.
by Joel Serby. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. If you didn't notice, we had a brand new intro video. Drop us a comment in the comments on Facebook, on YouTube, tweet us on Twitter. Let us know what you think about that new intro video. We just had that worked up, and personally, I dig it. But I also kind of came up with the idea, so I might be biased. Joel, how are you doing this Friday morning?
Hey man, it's great. Welcome to the Friday Flannel Panel, everybody. We're Mike and I are kind of curmudgeon-y old men in some ways, and we thought, what better way than flannel and coffee, and here we go. And you can get your Ram Chat mugs, your Ram mugs on the Renew America Movement swag store now live on the website. So check that out. I plan to have mine on the next flannel panel.
All right, that's good. I need to get my own Ram mug. I haven't done my Ram Christmas shopping yet, but yeah, definitely check out the merch store. So Joel, we're here today talking, as obviously as you know, but hopefully as the audience knows, we just launched this week our quest to fill out a watch list for potential renewers around the country running for office. One thing we talk about a lot here is, there's a lot of focus on these terrible bad actors, the very bad, no good, quote, I don't know, who's that, Matilda or whatever, the very bad people running. Was that?
It's Alexander and the terrible, horrible, yes. No good, very bad day.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of those people out there, they get all the media attention. But one thing we noticed, and Joel, as our national political director, you've been on the front lines of this, so I'd love to hear you talk about it, is just the sheer volume of people who are potentially really good candidates who reached out to us and want to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's been really encouraging for those who are listening. Just so you know, before we even launched this watch list, which we'll talk about in a minute, we had cold outreach from great people all around the country who many of them are running against some of our dividers. So we've been talking to candidates running against Madison Cawthorn, Lauren Boebert, Biggs, Gosar, Gates, line it up, MTG, folks that we have said are dividers. And they came to us and said, how do I earn Renew America support? And so that's been really encouraging, as well as just, great candidates out there who say, this is the kind of organization that I want to be a part of. They may be a Republican, they may be a Democrat, they may be an independent, but they see in our organization at Renew America a group of people who care about bringing the country together, about electing leaders who care about democracy and advancing, the good that our nation still has. And so we just think it's a great time to really step back and highlight those folks and open up the floodgates, we hope, even more for you all, our grassroots folks, to recommend, to contact, and to help us find some great renewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not everyone will meet the threshold for being a renewer, but I think a big part of this is we need your help, America, in finding all of these people, because we know they're out there. We're hearing from the people who we're fortunate enough to find or who find us, but we need more people to know about the Renew America watch list, more candidates up and down the ballot. And we have an application process. You can go to renewamericamovement.com/watchlist to read about those criteria. But what we'd encourage you to do is, if you know someone, if you know of a candidate, maybe they're running in your district, maybe they're running in your state, maybe they're just someone you found on Twitter who you really like, send them that link and ask them, tell them you want them to be a part of the Renew America Movement, to be on our watch list.
Yeah, please. And we're reaching out to you, our grassroots network, because you're on the ground in these places all around the country, and you're the eyes and ears of renewers all around the country. And so we'd encourage you to check that out at renewamerica.movement.com/watchlist. The process is pretty straightforward. Those candidates just email us. We have an email set up that's watchlist@renewamericamovement.com, and they'll email us with a little bit of basic info. And if we feel like they're ready to take the next step, We'll send them a little application that they'll fill out with some basic information that we need to gather to make sure that they're a serious candidate. And all this stuff is highlighted, but I'll just go through it really briefly, Mike. They need to be an officially filed candidate with the proper entities, whether that's local, state, or federal. And I'll say there, we're open to receiving this information from any candidate at all levels. Now, while Renew America right now is focusing on federal races, and we've released our renewers and our dividers that are, running for Congress or U.S. House and Senate. We believe that there's a number of great candidates out there, and while we can't do everything for everybody, we think it's important that we build this network right now. So we're looking for candidates up and down the ballot. We're asking you, if you want to be a renewer, you need to be even on the watch list, that you agree with our principles for American renewal. Which there's not a whole lot to disagree with in there. If you haven't checked it out, you should check out the principles for American renewal. Also,
yeah, if you're saying no to one of those principles, that's a pretty big red flag, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. It's basic stuff. We ask you to demonstrate a professional, organized campaign in a couple different ways, and raise a respectable amount of money. We know that it's hard to raise money in politics, so we're not asking you to be a multi-million-dollar juggernaut, but we need to see that you're serious about running a real campaign. And so, if you can meet all those criteria, you'll be considered for the watch list, and that's how the process goes.
Yeah, and I want to highlight something that you mentioned, before talking about the specific qualifications about up and down the ballot. One thing we talk about, this is a Renew America movement is a long-term project, right? So we've got short-term goals, we've got long-term goals. Obviously, one of those short-term goals is to be effective in 2022, but one of our major long-term goals is to build the network, build it's unfair to say this because I honestly think state legislators and city council members should be more important to us than they are, but build the minor leagues, so to speak, for the federal elections, because the people who are running this cycle and next cycle for city council, for state legislature, they're the people that in 3 or 4 cycles from now are going to be running for Congress, for Senate, etc. So building the bench is pretty critical. So help us find renewers at that level, even if our focus right now in 2022 is going to be a lot on the federal.
Well, Mike, let's be honest. I mean, there are some really radical candidates running at the local and state level, which is why it's so important that we have renewer candidates in those same races. And I'll mention too, renewer candidates can be both incumbents and challengers. And so just like we have in our Renew America watch list, or our current renewers includes both incumbents and challengers, we would expect that to be the case in the watch list as well. And we're beginning to closely track some of these radical candidates at the local and state level, as well as the federal level. And stay tuned for more on that in the new year from us. But this is why it's so important to find renewers down the ballot, because there are people running for school board and county clerk and county commission all around the country who are believers in the big lie, many of whom are full-throated QAnon conspiracy theorists, and then everywhere in between. And so it's really important that we also help find some of these great candidates.
Yeah, and when you see, the fake audits that are being pushed in state houses, when you see, post Donald Trump losing in 2020, you see legislatures pushing all these new restrictive voting laws to try and make sure they can't lose again. I mean, you understand how important then these state races can be. But once they get up to the federal level, then they have even broader power. So I think it's critical what we're doing with this watch list. As Joel mentioned, we're going to be putting out the actual watch list itself in the new year. But again, help us find them in your state and your area so that we make sure we have the most robust list of potential renewers possible.
Mike, we should probably mention here that there are a few things that will come along with being named as a watch lister. So for those who may be listening to this and wondering, well, why would it matter? Why would I do that? Once we roll out our initial watch list, we hope to roll out a couple of those over the course of next year. But the initial watch list in the new year Once someone has made it to the watch list, they've cleared a couple of hurdles for us organizationally that they're a serious campaign. And what that can mean is a number of things. It could mean that, number one, we'll amplify their campaign. We'll release this watch list with links to their websites and get those candidates in front of our broader nationwide, many hundreds of thousands, millions of people with our overall social media reach that will see these folks. There's the possibility and opportunity for some of these folks to participate in a variety of our kind of media properties, whether it's a RAM chat or otherwise on social. In certain circumstances, we might collaborate a little bit on fundraising to the extent within the law. There are grassroots direct connections that we can help make at a variety of state levels. And then, of course, just the earned media that comes along with being named as a watch lister for Renew America. So this is not we don't take this lightly. We will not just be adding anyone to this list that asks. We will take seriously how we vet these folks and how they fit. But this is the step to them becoming a full renewer. And of course, with our full renewers, they can expect that we'll be heavily engaged in their campaigns wherever we can across the country.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a huge benefit to being on the watch list, and an even bigger benefit to being a full-fledged renewer. One thing, and you're a very seasoned campaign vet, Joel, so you know this. One thing that people, especially the candidates who try to stay out of the kind of flash and flare and drama that tends to get you media attention. One thing that you constantly hear is just how hard it is and how alone you feel, isolated when you're trying to run against sometimes a big juggernaut, especially one that's backed by one of the major parties. Mm-hmm. So, it's critical that people out there who are running and people who might be thinking about running, is that there are reinforcements if you're a renewer. There are reinforcements if you are the kind of person that's going to stand up and fight for our democracy. And that's what the Renew America movement is, right? We're the backup. We're here to help.
Yeah, and it's really true, Mike. And I've worked with a number of candidates over the last, particularly the half decade since 2016, who have felt that loneliness of not having a group of people. And many of you who are listening, many in our grassroots network, have told us and used the phrase over and over and over that you feel politically homeless. That's the same case for many of these candidates. They may be a Republican, they may be a Democrat or an independent, but be that as it may, because they care about the kinds of things that we care about at Renew America, like truth and the upholding democracy and standing against extremism and working across party lines, this is not a popular stance in either party really right now. And so we are here to help provide that community. Even if you don't end up making the watch list, that doesn't mean that we won't stay in touch with you, that we don't support your campaign. Certainly appreciate anyone who puts themselves out there as an elected official or trying to be an elected official. And so there's a lot of other value in building that community. And I'll also say that, a lot of these are tough battles and you may not win. In fact, if you're taking on one of our dividers, that's going to be a tough road. You may not have a chance to win. However, I've been around politics long enough now, many, many, many cycles to see that it is a very common thing that candidates who run once come back and run again. My favorite example, of course, is Abraham Lincoln, who lost campaigns before he won them and ultimately became the president. And so there's no shame in running and losing, especially if you run and lose and exercise a machine and build a community and learn how to campaign and then come back and do it better the next time. So there's all kinds of value to being a part of a community like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. Especially, people, I don't like to borrow, the Trumpian rhetoric too much, but sometimes he is accurately describing a phenomenon that is the kind of the career politicians, the people who have made a business out of running for office. They know what they're doing. They get the consultants. They raise a boatload of money and they're able to do it. A lot of our renewers are not those people, right? And nothing inherently against people who make a life out of politics, but a lot of our renewers and a lot of, I think, the people that are going to make this watch list it's going to be the exact opposite, people who've never been involved in a political campaign in their lives. Yeah. So, for them to start building that experience to run a better campaign in the future is critical. But I'd also say, because we get this question a lot, what can you really hope to do in 2022? Can you really beat these people? And to your point, it's going to be very hard to unseat some of these terrible dividers that we have running and we have currently serving in Congress. But you know what? it happens in politics all the time. Juggernauts get taken down, Goliaths fall to David. You strike the right chord in your campaign, and especially against some of these people like a Madison Cawthorn or a Marjorie Taylor Greene, these really radical people. They have a base that's really into them, but they have a lot of detractors who go along to get along.
Yep.
And if we can provide an alternative that people don't have to be embarrassed to vote for or to have representing them in Congress, you can win. So we just have to get these people out there, out front. You know, that there's a big talk a little inside baseball. There's a big conversation about the Tea Party, right? Was these nobodies coming up out of the Tea Party and unseating like an Eric Cantor, doing something really big, taking down big names because there was a popular momentum behind them. Now, we obviously are a little bit different from the Tea Party, but I think there is a hunger for these kind of renewer candidates, for people that you wouldn't be ashamed to say represent you, and I think there is a chance.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And just, to make a couple final comments here, we want to keep this one short today. There is a hunger for a swing back from the extremism, and you may not feel that if you're a regular political news junkie, but I can tell you that it's real out on the streets. And I would point to, maybe a strange example, but I think the Virginia governor's race is actually an example of that, slightly in the inverse. But people wanted something different that was not just another politician. And Terry McAuliffe really came off, and Mike and I have talked about this, as another politician. And Glenn Youngkin was able to transcend that and believably be something different. Now, at the local and state level, it's not just that you can be something different and less extreme, but also there, just to make a finer point on Mike's assertion here, there's no way we beat them if there's nobody in the race. And so not only do crazy things happen, but also campaigns implode. It will happen this cycle, 100% certainty that someone that we would like to beat will implode. Something will happen. There'll be a scandal. There'll be something will happen that they will drop out of the race. And now all of a sudden, just because you stood up and said, I'll run, you're now the front runner. And so those are risks that we take if we care about our democracy and we're running for office. And so those are the kind of folks we're looking for. And again, we would love for you to help us do that. If you're listening to this right now, you can be a part of helping us build out the Renew America watch list. So pass it along, renewamericamovement.com/watchlist. You can email us if you are interested in becoming a member of the watch list. It's watchlist@renewamericamovement.com. And you can reach out anytime with further questions on that.
So renewamericamovement.com/watchlist. Yeah, Joel, we used to like to say, and still do say, it's never too late to do the right thing. But I would add, it's never a bad idea to do the right thing. And so, you may face heavy treading to try and get up that hill against some of these divider candidates, but doesn't mean that the fight isn't worth having. Thank you so much, Joel, for joining me. Let's call a cap on it. I'll just echo what Joel said. Help us, America. Help us find the renewer candidates that are running. It doesn't matter if it's for dog catcher or for Senate. Let's start building that bench. Let's build the network. Send them that link, renewamericamovement.com/watchlist. Send them that so that they can apply, so that they know that this watch list and these people are out here to help them. And while you're at our website, visit our new swag store, buy some of those Christmas gifts, sign up for our emails, subscribe to our YouTube page, hit the follow button, hit the retweet button, help us get the word out, and stay tuned. Early next year, we will have that watch list for you. You can find out if there are some renewer candidates in your state or your area that you didn't even know were on the ballot.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good Friday, good weekend.
Take care.